Welcome to the Code with Jason meetup. Things are getting interesting with SaturnCI. I have real users now. People have onboarded their projects onto the platform, and their projects actually run. Their test suites actually run. Not only do they
Nice.
run, but they pass. So that's pretty cool. I have two people onboarded with passing test suites. And neither of the setups were very hard. Um, like there were just some very, very minor tweaks to the config that you can like run a command to like plop some config into your project. Um, and there were just some very minor tweaks necessary and that was it. The
Hmm.
test suite just runs. And this guy even today, he like was apparently interested and without my knowing it, he went to the Saturn CI website, signed himself up, integrated a project, um, got it configured and got it running all without my help. There's no documentation. Um, he was just able to do it because it makes use of Docker Compose. And if you're familiar with Docker Compose, then it's all going to make sense to you. And he got it running without me. Um, with one small asterisk. Uh, almost all of his tests pass, but some of his system tests don't pass because we don't quite have the Capybara Chrome config dialed in yet. But uh, it's we got quite a ways without me even helping him, which no help, no documentation. Like I think that's pretty good.
Yeah, that is good.
Yeah. Um,
A really
and
good point.
so sorry, did you say something else then? Maybe
No,
not.
I also chimed in that it was a good sign.
Oh yeah. So I'll share my screen here. I'll share my to-do list. Oh, whoops, I didn't mean to share my job search spreadsheet. Okay. I'll share my to-do list for Saturn CI. Let me get this Zoom thing out of the way. Here we go. Okay. So it's like kind of a long list, and I'm at the point where like most of the stuff is not just nice to have stuff, but feels pretty necessary. Um, But instead of working on the very highest priority thing, I'm working on just something that I want to because over the last few days, I've done a lot of like hard, annoying stuff, and I'm ready to just do something that's like a treat for myself. So here's what I'm working on that's a treat for myself. Um, right now, when you run a test suite, you can see that we have the output here and it gets parallelized across a couple runners. We have all this output. But what it doesn't do is the platform is not smart enough to it's not smart enough to know anything about an individual test. And so, for example, if I go to one of these failures, that's maybe not the greatest example. These two are not perfect examples because you can kind of see everything that's red here. Let me try to find an older failure. Um, these are not good examples. Okay, here's some better examples. We have like six failures here. And one of my like core principles of Saturn CI is that when a run fails, it should be as easy as possible to see what failed. Rarely are you interested in seeing the details of a past run. When a run fails, that's when you're most interested in seeing what happened because you want to know what failed. And you shouldn't have to like scroll up. Like I might look at this and I'm like, okay, what about this GitHub events, blah, blah, blah. I shouldn't have to scroll up and do a manual search with my eyeballs
Hmm.
to figure out what text up here matches with this test down here. Um, So that's one thing. Another thing is if we have failures on multiple runners, if we have failures across multiple runners, the computer is not serving me very well if I have to click around
on
in
each runner.
multiple runners.
Yeah.
It should aggregate it for me.
So it's almost like the a concept could be a summary tab here that summarizes all the errors across all the runners with where each error has all the information you need about that particular error.
Exactly.
Right, the way that uh, RSpec outputs things, it makes sense from a certain perspective of getting a summarized list of things. But in the case I think you're talking about, usually there won't be that many. There'll either be a lot of errors and you'll realize, oh, I changed this one thing and it caused, 100 errors.
Hmm.
I'm not gonna waste my time looking at 100 different things. I'm gonna go fix that the last thing I changed. Or you're gonna have a couple of errors and you're gonna need to dig into them to see what happened. And it's like in that case, you just want each error listed with everything that it needs rather than in the way that our spec is outputting it within the summary format where it pulls the interesting. I think uh, it maybe ought to be a option in our spec, or maybe you can change the way that this is output to just put the failed example line up with the error line, up with the block that shows the error to pull it together. But anyway,
Well, I have
um,
all kinds of ideas in that area. Um,
I guess my
RSpec.
point was is that that's what you're thinking of, like adding a summary tab like that.
Oh, yeah, yeah, okay. So, yes. But okay, and I was thinking about it the same way that you're thinking about it right now originally, but then I think somebody else prompted me to think about it in a different and I think better way. So originally I was going to have like runner one, runner two, however many runners, and then a summary tab. And the idea was that the summary tab would be last, and it's kind of like the runners are the main thing, and then the summary tab is like this extra thing. But then it was pointed out to me, I think Joel Draper is who I was talking to actually. It was pointed out to me that like the summary tab should actually be the primary thing. Like the
Mhm.
fact that the test run is distributed across multiple runners is just a technical detail.
Right.
In an ideal world, I wouldn't even have to know about that. It should get abstracted away as much as possible. And I should only have to deal with the various runners when it's necessary in order to solve the problem that I want to solve.
Yeah, it's like uh you want it as if it didn't create all these runners. There was just one runner. And
Exactly.
maybe you want it to not even bother showing you any information about things that succeed.
Oh,
Uh
interesting.
you just want to see the things that need your attention. And
Yeah.
maybe a way to get to the full list if you really want to look at it, but why would you?
Yeah.
Or maybe you
Uh,
want to see your error in context of other things that are running around. I don't know, but
My one counter argument is that seeing this stuff come across does have entertainment value.
well, doesn't mean you couldn't have a like on your summary screen a where you are in the run, maybe as a percentage or whatever, just to so that you know something's happening,
Yeah. Yeah, you just need something to look at.
or like
Um,
what do you call it? A line graph,
right.
progress bar.
So here's where I'm at right now. Um, there's this thing you can do. So with RSpec, if you do, oh, let me make my font bigger. With RSpec, if you do format documentation, that's what gives you this like verbose output.
Yep,
You can
familiar
also
with
do
that.
format JSON and specify an output file.
Right.
So I'm going to run just this one test and it'll output to that file, and then I'll open it up. It's not much to look at, but the reason I'm doing this is because this is like a machine parsable format.
Yeah.
It's going to be a lot easier to parse that than to parse something like this.
Oh yeah, 100%. You don't want to be in the business of parsing that because
Right,
anytime it changes, anytime some random person does a pull request to RSpec, you could be sunk.
right. So on my runs table, where previously I had this test output column. So the test output column is what stores this. Now I've added this JSON output column, which will store this kind of stuff, this JSON output.
Hmm.
Um, so I created that migration to add that column. That's deployed to production. That's done. Um, I added JSON output controller. I added this controller that I can hit. So my like agent that runs on the virtual machine where the tests are being run, that can hit this endpoint when the test suite is done and say, here you go, endpoint. Here is the JSON output.
Let
But
me
what's not happening yet is the agent is not sending that request yet.
Gotcha. And this only happens at the end of the tests, right?
Correct.
And so it would be not ideal for the case of wanting to show progress of the tests.
Correct. And so I'm gonna have to figure out a way to deal with that. But I'm guessing that's gonna be, it's not gonna be like 10% harder. It's gonna be like 10 times harder probably. So,
Probably, yeah. I would almost think you would write your own custom formatter to emit those
mm,
uh, where the like I don't know how the formatters work and where they get called. Do they get called in a streaming way throughout the test, or do they get called literally at the end? I'm not sure,
yeah, I don't know either.
but
Um,
that's the thing I would look up is how to get those events in a streaming fashion and be able to send them into your server, stream them to your server rather than uh, sending them at the end as one big document.
yeah. Yeah, and that would be a great quality of life upgrade. For starters, I just want to rough it in.
Makes
Um,
sense.
so sending it at the end is good enough for me. Um, the first thing I want to do, um, so I showed you this RSpec command before, where
Mhm.
I have the format documentation and format JSON. So I need to modify the command that I run to be able to do that.
Gotcha.
Um,
Looks like you've done it.
so yeah, that's this. Um, and there's a lot of gymnastics that go into preparing this command. Um, I have to I have to let's see, Docker compose command. Yeah, okay. So this rspec command gets nested inside of this Docker compose command. So you can see it calls rspec command right here,
Hmm.
but everything on the virtual machine gets run via Docker. So the rspec command has to be nested in the Docker compose command, and the Docker compose command has to get some certain environment variables sent to it, and the output has to be streamed to a file. And so this is the final command.
I see. And am I reading this? Never mind. Okay, gotcha.
Um, so even though all I'm doing is adding this flag, it's not like super duper simple. And I have a test, um, because if I didn't have an automated test that helped me that helped me have confidence that all this stuff was like uh just, letter for letter the way everything needs to be, it would
Hmm.
be way too easy to make mistakes. So I have this test, but it's not passing yet because I'm making a mistake somewhere, but it's not immediately obvious what that mistake is. And so I pasted into ChatGPT um, my files and the output I'm getting. Um, and
Can I
RSpec is
see
doing,
the output one more time just to give me a 30 seconds or less to study it?
yeah. And I'll also say before that, that ChatGPT is taking its normal low quality troubleshooting approach, which is to say, like, just go back and double check everything. And I'm not
Mm.
terribly interested in that. Um, Here is the output.
Do you pay for ChatGPT?
I do.
Do you ever use the other model? What is it? Is it O1 or
Um,
O3 mini?
I've
I
used it
find that I
before.
get different answers a lot of times with those.
Yeah.
Uh, yeah, I would just like when you get these kind of answers, maybe try switching the model,
Okay.
see if it gives you anything different.
Yeah, I think they've created kind of a mess with all their different product offerings with not
I
very
like
clear
I can't tell by the
differentiations.
name. Yeah, yeah, I can't
That's
tell by the
terrible.
name what the heck it's meant for.
But actually, I do see a difference here. There's
Yeah,
script dash one
exactly.
dash F test. Yeah, blah, blah,
You're
blah.
missing that file name.
Yeah,
That should be easy to spot.
should be. All right, let me undo. Oh, temp test output. RSpec documentation output file name. Oh, I see what I did. I overwrote this, which I should not have. Okay. So we want JSON output file name, but we want to keep RSpec documentation output file name.
Hmm.
Is that what it's actually called? I don't see that there.
Well, you didn't specify the output file for the documentation. I don't know what the default is, but when you specify dash out on the RSpec line, it only applies to the last format.
Right. Um, I think that's because hang on, I'll explain that in a second, but I'm doing too much mental juggling right now. Um, I think this is actually missing. Yeah,
Hmm.
test suite command. Okay, so I need to have RSpec documentation output file name. There we go. Okay, so the JSON one takes a file name, but the documentation one doesn't take a file name because the way that that gets put in the file is by virtue of the fact that we're streaming the entire standard out to a file.
Okay.
Yeah,
So in other words, it's not really going, RSpec's not putting it to a file. You're uh, you're
exactly.
capturing it at a
Exactly.
higher level.
All right, so I should fix this. I'm
You could
accumulating
shorten
quite a
that
lot
out to
of.
just say RSpec output. If you
Sorry.
nothing. Go ahead. You're good.
Okay.
I was just saying you could just say RSpec output file
Oh
name,
yeah.
but
I
six of
think I
one, half
left
dozen
the.
of the other.
Yeah. Um. Okay. Let's see what happens when I run this. Didn't work. Okay, I just have a syntax error.
Oh
Yeah.
yeah, you need a comma or oh.
Okay, now it's still different somehow. This temp test output thing is fixed.
Oh, how do you make it expand the dot 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 in the middle of your line there?
I wonder if there is a way to.
I'm sure there is, or maybe it's somewhere else. I come across this and I never remember what I did to resolve it the previous time.
Diff. Okay.
I don't think so. Um, I don't
Okay.
think that's read the rest of what it said.
Oh, um, I'm confused. It This is how it has it.
Yeah, I guess it lied to you.
Maybe.
Or alternately, I just do binding pry or binding whatever at that point and print it myself.
I'm just curious what we get when we do this. Hmm. Yeah, I'm not immediately seeing anything that looks like that. Okay. Yeah, binding that pry, I'll do that. Expect command dot s to equal all that. Yeah.
Or either that, just put a, well, yeah, that'll work.
Okay.
Well, the question is, what do you output?
Docker compose command and command dot to s. Okay.
Whoa, that's like way different.
Yeah, I think I did the wrong thing. Oh, this is okay, this is my expected command here. All right, I'm going to do this a different way.
There you go. Got to put your binding that pry one statement later.
Oh, whoops. Okay, yeah. Oh, whoops. I'm going to clear first. Okay.
Is it one longer, the top one, or
Mm,
not? No.
not to my eye.
Just see if they're equal.
Balls. Okay, let's try this. Are the first 11 characters the same? Okay.
There's got to be a better way to do this, like as a,
Okay, so it's 400 some characters long. Are the first 200 characters the same? Or,
there you
201?
go.
Okay, they are. What about 300? It's a binary search. Okay, 250. Okay, 275. Okay, 282. No, what about 280?
Uh,
Okay, 278. 276. Okay, 277. Wonderful. Okay.
all right. So I would just print out like from 10 before that and 10 after that for both
Oh
of them.
yeah. Um,
290, let's say.
yeah.
Uh-huh.
Okay. Ha! Equal sign. Okay.
Dun, dun, dun.
Hmm.
There. While
Okay.
you're doing that, I'm gonna look on uh I'm gonna figure out a better way to do that for the
Oh, okay.
future.
All right. And that is a great demonstration of just how easy it is to make a minor but catastrophic mistake.
Yep.
Okay. So what is this? It resets. I'm actually gonna not do this yet, the JSON output, because I tried this earlier and it didn't work, and I want to be able to rule that out as the culprit. Okay, add JSON format to test command. Okay, let's see if that shows up. All right, and in about 5 minutes, we should know if that causes a bug or not. And I guess we can do something else while we're waiting here. We can uncomment this. Um, and we can file content request. Yeah. And command to send JSON output. Okay. And while we're waiting for this, let me show off to you guys something I made recently, which I think is pretty neat. Um, so SaturnCI has had a CLI for a while, but I allowed it to break. I like never used it. I allowed it to break. But then recently I fixed it. And what you can do with this is you can take any particular run, like I'll take this first one here, and I can say for this run, I want to SSH into it. And it will open an SSH session for me so that if there's something I want to troubleshoot, I can get right in there and look really closely. And that has been really valuable for troubleshooting new users' setups. Because then I don't have to go through the whole cycle. Like maybe you guys have experienced the pain of trying to set up GitHub Actions or CircleCI, and you have to go through the whole cycle of like editing your config file and doing a push, and then waiting some number of minutes for it to run.
Mhm.
This shortens that cycle so that you can just do the tweaking and running locally until you figure out what the problem is, and then you can just apply the fix and push again, and the first time you push, it'll be fixed instead of having to do that really time-consuming trial and error.
That's nice.
Yeah. Okay. So this is about 3 minutes in. I see it's gotten to the stage where it's creating the database. This one's at the same stage. I believe it has not run the test suite yet. It hasn't started the test suite yet. Okay.
It's a little painful to wait for the test to finish. They're being run serially, right? Not in parallel.
They're being run in parallel.
Oh, they are. Okay.
Mm-hmm. But I don't know if things are going okay or if there are problems. So this one created the database. Oh, and I happen to recognize this output. It runs what I call the pre-script, which it creates the database and pre-compiles the app precompiles the assets. I don't know whether this is anything to pay attention to. Lost carrier, enter disabled state. Um, this one might be stuck. This output resembles some output that I looked at a little earlier today when it got stuck. I'm not sure if this is stuck, but if much more time passes, then I will be pretty sure that it's stuck. This is going fine and this is going fine. So this is production. These tests are running fine on production, but the local environment, the one that
Changes.
actually changes,
Hmm.
that's where it's not working. Okay. Well, let's back up. So this is definitely no good. And this is the first potentially bad commit. Usually when something like this happens, I don't try to figure out what's wrong. I just start over more carefully. So that's what I'm going to do. First of all, I'm just going to delete these so I don't have an orphaned runner running. Let's see, what do I have left? ICC, blah, blah, blah. Okay, that's this one. I'm going to delete this. No reason really to keep this. I'll delete that. Oh, this is in a totally weird state. Oh, okay. Things seem back to normal. Um, okay. So let me go back to main. Um, and I will go to my script and go to my test run command, test suite command. I'll do this. I'm just going to hard code this. Okay, so format JSON out temp um, JSON output dot JSON. Okay. And then in my test suite command tests, I messed myself up here. Test suite command test. I'll run it. I expect it to fail, of course. Yep. Okay. And then here, after format documentation, I can put format JSON out temp JSON output dot JSON. I'll do the same thing here. Then maybe this will pass. Okay. Um, so I'll put this on a new branch because I don't want to spoil my I don't want to foul my main branch. I did that a little earlier today. Don't want to do it again. Um, okay, so what exactly am I doing? I'm adding JSON format. Add JSON format to RSpec command. Add JSON format to RSpec command. Okay. And so what I did there was I bit off a significantly smaller change than what I did last time to leave less room for anything to go wrong. If
Makes sense.
Yeah, if this build fails to work, it'll be pretty surprising. So this will take about 5 minutes. While we're waiting for that, maybe we could talk for a second about something on the business side. I've been starting to think about pricing. I went to one of my users because some of these people are just using it to be nice. They're not using it because they actually need it. Um, I went to one guy who's using it and I'm like, "Hey, is this something you think you might be willing to pay for?" He said no. That's fine. He had valid reasons. Um, Another friend of mine, he's using it. I asked him the same question and he more or less said yes. Um, and so I'm thinking about like how much to charge, how to structure it, all that kind of stuff. I have some thoughts, but before I share that, do you guys have any thoughts?
Um, where does this stuff actually run?
Right now, DigitalOcean.
And so you're having to pay compute time.
Yeah. And it's kind of a problem actually. It's like way too expensive. I got to figure out something more economical.
Yeah. What if I mean you it seems like you have to follow the structure of billing that your hosting provider gives you. Otherwise, you'll either be charging way too much or not enough.
Yeah.
And even if you balance it up front, things could change down the line, and you'd have to be constantly
Mm.
assessing.
Sorry, one
Uh,
second. I have to interrupt this. Oh, this is production. Okay. Sorry. Okay, here is local. Okay, local is still going. Okay. Sorry, continue.
anyway,
Oh,
it
sorry, I
seems
need
like
to interrupt you again.
okay,
Um,
breaking
Local
news.
is working. So let me, before it's too late, let me SSH into this. Um, okay, Saturn.
Grab that file.
Yeah, I have to point it at my local machine. SSH. Yeah. Let's see if I got it in time. I think so. Okay, so I'm gonna go into my project directory. Okay. I see it there, JSON output.json. Okay, there's nothing there right now. Maybe it just touches it and it doesn't actually have any content until the very end.
Surprise me that it touches it, if that's the case.
Yeah, I don't understand why it might do that. Anyway, we can wait until this is done and then see what appears in this file. Okay, now that I've interrupted you multiple times, do you even remember what you were saying?
Yeah, my point was going to be, I think you need to pass through the costs
Yeah.
and structure it in the same way that your underlying provider is, or give the capability for users to host their own runners and just give them instructions for setting up DigitalOcean or AWS or whatever for
Oh,
their own
yeah.
local server.
hmm Um, Another possibility, I don't know how realistic it is anytime soon, but like if I could somehow get the compute cost to approximately free, then I wouldn't have to worry a lot about passing along the costs. For example, if I'm not saying I'm going to do this, but if I just like bought a Raspberry Pi or I bought some computer and here in my
Mhm.
office, that's where all the Saturn CI builds run, then it's like I pay for the computer once, and then after that, the cost is almost negligible.
Yeah, but then you've got basically capitalized costs that you would have to upgrade every so often.
Yeah. My point
I mean,
though is
you could
that,
purchase a machine at a data center,
yeah,
but
exactly. Yeah, so my point is that maybe there are ways to get the cost down to something very small.
I
And
mean, in the meantime, I think Hetzner's pricing for everything is lower than DigitalOcean.
oh, okay, maybe I'll look into that. Okay, so going back to this, I can see my JSON
Oh,
output here.
there you go. And
So,
I'm assuming it just spit it all out at the end.
yeah, I'm assuming so too. Um, so my tactic of just biting off a smaller amount and trying again, that tactic worked. So I am comfortable bringing this into main. That's not it. Git merge, squash. Not that I really need to because it's only one commit. Okay. Um, Now we need to add the part that sends the file output to the
You got an
server.
API that, yeah, you had that server API now,
Yeah.
or you had made a controller, I think you said.
Yeah.
Same thing.
Sending a JSON output. This is not correct. So it doesn't even take this. It's going to be temp. Yep.
So let me ask you this.
Uh-huh.
Um, on your uh, the code that saves this file once it comes in through this API,
Mm-hmm.
does, is it like renaming that file to something that's specific to the runner?
No.
Right, because then these
JSON.
all override each other.
Um, oh, so it sends it to an endpoint that is, oh, and this
Ah,
API path is
okay. So
wrong.
the runner is the runner IDs in there.
Yeah, let me make sure my route is right. Oops. Um, JSON output. Yeah, singular. Okay. Great. Yeah, I'll commit and push that. But again, out of paranoia, I'll do it on a separate branch. Um, let's see. What is this? It's the JSON output API request. And here's a bug. This is on my list. Sometimes these show up as duplicates.
Mm,
It's because there's a turbo event. It like when a new one gets saved, it gets broadcast, and so it shows up automatically. And that works fine. But if I refresh the page, it keeps the one that got broadcast, but then it also shows one from the database too. So I just need to deduplicate that somehow. Okay, so if this run passes, that doesn't really tell us anything new, um, because this is just a merge of what we committed before. This one, if it passes, is what will tell us something new.
And so you're expecting new that new database field to be filled now. I didn't quite see the code,
Yeah, I'll show that.
or I didn't pay attention or whatever. Okay.
Yeah. Um, Here's something I don't understand though. Let's see. The test output controller. The test output controller is different because it takes just a little chunk at a time. It
Mhm.
takes like the head of the streamed content and just appends onto what it already has, and then it broadcasts the most recent version of it so that we get this like auto scrolling effect.
Mhm.
So that's a bit different. With this one we're just getting the whole chunk at once. I
Yeah,
have this other test report controller, um, and that is much more similar to this JSON output controller, but it's doing this request.body.rewind thing, and I don't really know why.
because well, uh,
Hmm. Yeah, and I don't think that I would have put that there if I didn't really think it was necessary.
yeah,
And so I suspect it's there for a reason, but I don't want to just include it here because I'm guessing that it's necessary. So for all I know, this will fail because that's not there. But if it works even without that there, then I'm curious if this one's really needed. But that part is a bit of a mystery.
I'm not familiar with rewind. Can you tell me what rewind is supposed to do?
Um,
rewind resets the position of a stream back to the beginning. So, but the body, I would think, is a string. And so, unless the body's a stream, because you've got it set up on some, I don't know what, I'm not, I don't know enough to say I'm only guessing, but like a, uh, something that's constantly updated rather than like a one shot,
hmm.
uh, requests handling thing.
This particular one is a one-shot request, so I don't really understand.
So, is body a stream?
I don't know. Let's ask our semi-reliable friend here.
Am I not reliable?
Um, ChatGPT is our semi-reliable friend. Okay, resets the read pointer of the request body to the beginning. This is necessary because request body is an IO-like object, and if it has
Right.
already been read elsewhere in the code or middleware, the pointer will be at the end. Interesting.
Are you like the way that you're sending this, are you sending it with like an HTTP request that is multiple requests in the same connection? And that's why it's like streaming it in?
No, it's just a single one.
Okay.
Okay, so this run is finished. So let's grab it and let's see what's in that column.
I mean, if you took out the rewind and ran your tests, would the test fail if it, can you lean on your test to determine that within seconds?
Um, my brain overfloweth.
Okay.
Whatever you just said didn't go into my short-term memory, so we'll have to come back to that in a sec.
Okay.
Run.json output Nil. Okay. Not shocking. So that failed for some reason. Are we going to be able to find that in the logs? Whoa. Okay. That's not JSON. Okay. So just because it's cheap to try, I'll add this, add rewind. Okay. So the file content is saving. Oh, let me look in the logs. That's precisely why I put this sending JSON output thing here.
Yeah, the system logs have to be streamed like uh called multiple times per run, right? Because you get
System logs
the
are, but
text.
the system logs
Okay.
are a different thing.
Oh,
System
was I?
log controller. Yeah, so the system logs, that's what this looks like. It's a,
Yeah, and that one doesn't even have the rewind anyway.
yeah.
So yeah, the rewind is a mystery.
Um, yeah, interesting. Okay. So this is interesting because it looks like the output is kind of truncated. I don't see, okay, so like let me look at some other ones. Yeah, for these other ones at the end, it'll say Docker push finished and deleting runner. Here again, Docker push finished deleting runner. But for this one, it doesn't say that stuff. And why not? Also, is the new build showing up? Yeah, it is. All right, so what's the most recent thing that it tells us?
A time check where fast
Oh yeah,
time, which is fine
thanks.
by me.
Um, oh, hang on a second. My wife texted me a minute ago. Let me just see what she said. Okay. It looks like it's okay if I'm a couple minutes late. Um, okay, so we have test run command here. This might actually be useful to look at, so I will do so. Whoops. Okay. Actually, let me do this. Okay, apparently it's not my clipboard. Nope, that's not what I want. That is what I want. Okay. And was this local? Yeah. The output more readable for me. My goodness. All right, the time that that's going to take, maybe it'll be faster to do it manually. All right, so where does the actual RSpec command start? Here it is, and we see our format documentation, format JSON out, temp JSON output that JSON. So that's just fine. And this file path matches temp JSON. Oh no, it doesn't match. It's supposed to be JSON output. That's what I get for hard coding the file name and duplicating it. Um, fix file name. All right.
For my 2 cents, I think the file name should be rspec output, either .text or .json, and then maybe that'd be easier to keep track of. But
Oh, interesting.
uh,
Yeah, I think that's maybe a good argument.
But whatevs.
Um, okay. So I just did this thing where I said fix file name, but there's no new build showing up. That happens every once in a while. And by the way, on my ever-growing to-do list, I want to add an area where you can see the GitHub events that have come through. So it's like, was that GitHub's fault or was it Saturn CI's fault that that thing didn't come through? Let me re-push somehow. Let me see. Um, okay, I'll just do this. Okay, and is this gonna show up or not? Okay, we got some kind of problem. Or is it a problem? Yeah, it looks like a problem. Okay, that's a lot of stuff. Um, Cloud SSH key ID. Okay, I can't see the actual issue. GitHub events controller. Huh. Okay, can I push anything and will anything work? I don't see the error, at least not yet. Interesting. Oh, no. This is this is weird. This seems like not normal. I'm gonna keep going up until I can't go up anymore, or until I see the actual error, whichever comes first. Yeah, that's as far up as I can go. All right, GitHub events controller line 17. This is the wrong one. GitHub events controller line 17. I think maybe my logic is bad here. Um, this shouldn't be when created and just else. It should be like when push. I don't want the else. Let's see if it knows what to do with that. No, I want to specifically look for pushed or whatever. Okay, pushed. Okay, is that why what's happening is happening? Okay, not showing up. Well, this is annoying. Um,
Hey, Jason, I need to drop.
yeah, okay. See you next time.
Okay, catch you later.
Bye. This is interesting how things just kind of stopped working entirely. This kind of thing has not happened before. I do see this error like is not there anymore, as far as I can tell. Um, it could be just that I didn't see it, but I don't think it was there. So we saw this come through. Um, but I think that's going to have to be an issue for a different day. All right. So what did we accomplish in this session? We got the JSON file saving to the temp directory, although we haven't yet made it get sent to the server so it could be saved in the database. Um, okay, so we accomplished more than nothing. Anyway, that'll have to be it for today. Thanks, Nelson, for coming. Thank you, dear YouTube viewer, for watching, and I'll see you next time.